Branch Nation? Welcome back to Nerds on the Mic, where we talk about anything Nerdcore related. It could be music, video games, anime, comics, or just anything that involves sections of nerd and geek culture. I'm your host, Nicholas Fernbaugh, or better known on YouTube as Silver Ranch. And I want to start by diving into a big topic that I've been curious about. It's the difference between video game scores versus film scores. Now, there's a big difference that most people would see from music to film scores. There's quite a lot more that goes into like a film score, because not only do you have to mix music and soundtracks, you gotta mix ADR, you gotta mix natural sound, you gotta mix Foley. There's a lot that goes into film scores, but I kind of was curious, is there a big difference between listening to a film score, whether it be from when I say film score, it can be TV, it can be anime, it can be movies, it can be just about anything under the sun, versus like a video game score. So, like I said, any video game you get on a AAA console or through Steam. Honestly, it could even be like mobile games as well, because there's a lot of those. And I kind of was curious about this, so I did some digging. I was looking at it, and I think video games, to start off, there's a lot of complexities that go into video games, because you have to, like, in film, it doesn't matter how good a film composition is, and that needs to be heard. If the dialogue's not being heard, then nobody cares. Whereas in video games, a lot of it's usually done through like text bubbles, or there's just mainly just a bunch of sound effects that people want to hear throughout. Video games, you have a little more freedom to kind of drive tempo and drive emotion, drive power out of a track, versus a film score where, and I talked with a composer who does a lot of animation. I'll give you 1 second to remember his name. I should have looked it up earlier, but I was very curious. If I can remember the name, I'll talk about it later, but my sound design professor introduced us to him, and he's he's really good at what he does. And I think that's really important, because sorry, but the composer, he talked with us on a Zoom call, and he basically said, like, you have creative freedom to do stuff, but it all comes down to, what the director wants. In a lot of cases, when you're doing film scores, you're usually being contracted by people for it. Whereas like video games, there's passion projects that you could be making and doing the composition yourself. Or it could be you and a bunch of friends, to where you were going to have a lot more leniency to do that, versus, being opted out through something like Nintendo or Sony. So I think those are some pretty big and distinct differences. And I think those are the main things you'll see. As for me, if there was one side I would love to do a little more work on, it'd definitely be more on the video game composition side, because film composition is really cool. But again, like I said, I think there's a little more flexibility that comes into doing video game composition. The composition is making music for specific projects. The reason I talk about that is because I was scrolling online, and I wanted to get more vinyls. Shout out to my boy Harley, in which you'll see later. He's on in a later episode, but we briefly talk about it, because I've been started to get more into vinyls thanks to him, because he's a very eclectic music lover. Listen to just any and everything. They got me into that sort of stuff. And I started wanting to get more vinyls and stuff. So I ended up looking online because I was like, what are some soundtracks of, like, for me, anime, and for video games that I was like, yo, I gotta pick up this vinyl. This is tough, and I need this right now. So right off the bat, I was looking at video games. I was thinking the classic, and if you guys grew up with a Nintendo Wii, then you know where I'm going with this. Super Mario Galaxy, the classic, one of the best Wii games of all time. But I went online and I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked. Nowhere. All they had were CDs, and it made me so sad. And it's something I'm curious about, and I want to see what people think in Nerdcore. Do you think vinyls are out of style? Because there's been a big resurgence in that recently with, especially in the music industry, when you see people like things like vinyl and tape and stuff like that, courtesy of someone like a Jack White, who's kind of bringing all that back just for the sake of messing around with it because they find it interesting. And I want to see where people stand on that. Are you still on the edge, end of oh, everything's digital, all work's done through Pro Tools, all music's listened through Spotify. You're not the type to go sell physical hard copies, or do you actually want, or are you a firm believer of let's have some physical collection of this? Because I think, at least for me, I find a lot more value in having a physical copy of some memory. A great example for me was I went to Techo, which is an anime convention up at Pittsburgh. A guy I listened to, I only had a few of his songs, but his name was Megaran. He has been a guy in this community who has done it for a very long time. One of the best professionals to ever do it. I think he even has tracks with WWE. I want to say it was Xavier Rhodes, but I could be wrong. I talked about this with my friend Larry. We were playing the show one night, and so I went to Techo. I was having fun at the convention. I go to his stand, and I saw, I was talking with him, and I was talking with Rustage that night. And it was really cool. I really mean that. But that night, when the concert was, I saw the guy was handing out CDs, and I never really thought about it until later down the line, a few years later, until this last year when I started collecting vinyls, and I was like, huh. I'm not the biggest CD guy in the world because I need someone to let me know. Does a PS5 take CDs, or is it just DVDs? I don't fully know. But I got this CD of a list of Megaran tracks, and I want to listen to them at some point because I left them at my house, not in Pittsburgh. And I found that interesting because there's a lot that goes into putting out hard copies, and especially in Nerdcore, where it's a lot more of a smaller, more of a niche side. Is it worth putting out vinyls and CDs, and obviously not cassettes? Cassettes, I think, are still very much out of style because most people aren't going to have a boombox. But I think more and more people are getting record players now. Case in mind, I got a Victrola record player that I found from Kohl's for $60, $70. It was an insane deal. And I was just curious that if vinyl is something that's going to come, if it's making a renaissance, if it's going to plug its way into Nerdcore in some way, shape, or form. If there's anyone who loves music enough and says, yes, I want to throw this out onto it. And there is some vinyl I am looking at getting. There's two in specific I'm looking at getting. They're both shows, which is Hazbin Hotel, which if you listen to that soundtrack, you understand why I'm getting that. I'm going to get that vinyl because if they have a vinyl, I want it. And if they don't, come on now, let's get some vinyl. it would be so sick to get like a physical copy of that. And then the other one, I think the other one's real. It's Beastars, which oh goodness, do I have the? I'm not going to show it, but because I forget where I put it. I think I put it in like in the back corner for those who are watching, like right there where all the posters are, and my thumb is not flexible enough to do this. That, which is the for people who are listening, it was all my other posters that I've never hung up, and a flag I got, or I guess a banner per se that I got from bowling championships from working at Duquesne. But I saw that they had a soundtrack for it, and it looks so sick. They got the red moon in the middle of where like the vinyl would go, like in the center of the track, and it's almost like a blood red around it. It looks so sick. It looks so good. And so the reason I talk about this is because you're less likely, I think, to go and invest in something like a film composition or a video game composition than you are, say, like a composition of like a song. Like, let's be real here, and this is gonna be a hot take. If you saw in the store, I apologize, I have a stuffy nose. If you saw in the store, and they're right next to each other, Taylor Swift or Jurassic Park, if you see those two vinyls in the store, or CDs, for whoever wants, if you are a CD listener, which are you more likely to go grab? I feel like a lot of people are more likely to say the Taylor Swift product, or the album of Taylor Swift, because of name notoriety, and because you're less likely to listen to film scores because it's like you don't think about them as much. You don't know the specific names of tracks. You don't have the familiarity with it, but you love the music. And honestly, in most people's case, they might pick that they love the Jurassic Park like music more than Taylor Swift. But they'll go for Taylor Swift because of name notoriety. And not just name notoriety, it's just that, it's specifically a song. Versus Jurassic Park, where it's just music that's played as soundtracks. So that's kind of where I stand on that. Like, and how I feel about, like, film versus video games, and just kind of where it stands versus, like, how you get physical hard copies of just regular music from musicians. The next big thing, I'm going to kind of just say this quickly. The biggest event of being a Nerdcore fan is coming up. It's called Nerdcore Party Convention, which is a 2-day event in which there's a lot of concerts. You get to meet a lot of artists. It's a cool, awesome experience that is going to be held in Raleigh, North Carolina on July 20th and 21st. There's going to be so many artists there. I'll list a few. JT Music, DPS, Game Boy Jones, Cam Steady, Rustage, Schwab, and just many more. If you want to go, go get tickets. Now's your chance. It looks like the best. It's going to be one of the best experiences ever if you are a fan of this kind of music, because I have to figure out if I'm going to do it, because Raleigh's actually close for once. Because last time it was in freaking Chicago, I think, or Nashville. It was either Chicago or Nashville, and I couldn't go for a few reasons. But yeah, it looks like a great time, and so get a chance, get yourself out there. Now, to end it, I want to end with some like video game kind of news. Some really, really like tough things to like talk about. So, as a lot of us know, we are very dorky. So what did a lot of us grow up with? If it made us this dorky, well, obviously Nintendo is the sole answer. Most people are going to say maybe some Sony in there. In the case of me, I also grew up with a lot of EA because I'm a diehard sports junkie. It's funny, I'm wearing, for all the people listening, I am wearing a Roberto Clemente shirt, showing that I am indeed an ignorant yinzer, despite the fact I'm not from Pittsburgh, even though I go to school here. But one of the big news that has been going on recently is that Nintendo is becoming under a lot of flack because, well, they shut down Relic Castle. They then went after, sued, and shut down Yuzu. And then to finish it off, they then turned off the servers for the Wii U and the 3DS because of, I think, a certain... I don't know fully how this works, but I think after a certain amount of time, when a product goes off the air, when the product goes out of commission, they're not going to keep up with updating the servers for said console. So that means like after a while with the Wii U and 3DS, the Wii and the DS's online systems went down, and I mean they took them down and are never going to bring it back. What made it so concerning with this one was that the 3DS had a lot of online games that had a lot of online potential, and the main ones were the Pokemon games, X and Y, and Omega Ruby, and Alpha Sapphire. And that kind of system had a lot of fun with it, for things like Wonderlocks and randomizers and stuff like that. A lot of potential that you could use to make for a good system. And then we took it down and then immediately proceeded to go after Citra, which is an emulation software that is used to emulate 3DS games. So that could be Super Mario 3D Land, that could be Pokemon Rumble, that could be the regular Pokemon games, that could be Link Between Worlds, and many other games. But it wouldn't be so concerning if they weren't within such a fast time. They took down Relic Castle, then I think they took down Yuzu, then they took down Relic Castle, then they went after Citra for, I think, having their online stuff still up, which I don't fully know how that works. But there is a specific law that protects people. I forget what the rule is. Dang it, I should have remembered. There's a lot of gray area that comes with emulation, but the reason it's so well liked is because there's such a high ability to mod and remake stuff and show off creativity that you wouldn't be able to show since you're not licensed out by a video game company. And I think that's where kind of the crux of the issue is here. A lot of people are upset because they're not focusing on their making good products in some cases. Now, you're mainly hearing this from Pokemon fans, because if you're a Zelda fan or a Mario fan, you're probably not going to say much because Super Mario Wonder was fantastic, and Tears of the Kingdom is a fantastic game. They both look great, they play great, and they're just a lot of fun, and they have a lot of replayability to them. Whereas something like Pokemon, where they kind of swung and missed recently. So I'm talking Sword, Shield, Brilliant Diamond, and Shining Pearl for reference. I have Brilliant Diamond. I have played like maybe 10 minutes of it because I hate the art style. For those who saw it, because they use the same, it's like a chibi. I can't say that term. It's like chibi art style that they used in the Link's Awakening remake, or Redux, I think is what you call the term. And it was kind of just ugly. I just don't like it. That game played good, so it didn't matter. And then, they really swung and missed with Scarlet and Violet. They missed the mark on so much stuff, which I think is really just a shame. So I think if you're a Pokemon fan, you're going to look at like Nintendo with a lot of a negative view set, and then like I said, going after Relic Castle, which is, if for people who don't know, Relic Castle is a website that is basically the hub for most creators to put out their ROM hacks if they don't use their individual sites. And as a result of the site getting taken down, many people have lost their hard work. That sucks. There's a lot of people who put a lot of time and effort into things, have their products taken down. Now they have to scramble to put them out somewhere else. So it's getting to the point where I think this is kind of what's going to be my going or leaving question for this episode. Do you think most of us, when we do like say we do tracks on Pokemon or we do tracks on Mario, do you think that makes some of the issues worse because we talk about, because of all these things, we bring up past memories and love for these games, and these games are owned by Nintendo, while at the same time Nintendo's doing pretty scummy things that affect the like memories we had growing up as a child. So just let me know what you think down below. So let me know what you think down below in the comments on YouTube, and if and just let me know online. You can reach out to me on Twitter, or like Twitter. You can reach out to me on Twitter. You could send a comment. You could put a comment on YouTube. I guess you can even let me know on Instagram or other places, because I'll support you guys leaving me in the world. So thank you all for listening to Nerds on the Mic. Yeah, I'm sorry. My brain just short-circuited. Thank you for listening to Nerds on the Mic, where we talk about all things Nerdcore related. I have been your host, Silver Ranch, or Nick Fernbaugh, and I'm signing off.